Federal Avenue Streetscape and Utility Improvement Project. Mr. Marsters, do you have a motion?
Sure, move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Marsters.
Yeah, earlier today I sent an email to Mr. Trug and requested a total of where we're at on the streetscape project for overruns or change orders. Sure. I wasn't right up to speed on that.
You bet. And City Engineer Ram's ready to go through that with you.
The project to date, we had 2 change orders that were approved by council at the July 5th meeting. Overall change order, we've had temporary sidewalks were approved last fall for businesses, and the change order to July 5th meeting covering just a numerous list of items, and along with that were engineering services. So I put everything together that we paid additional on top of the total budgeted project. We had those 3. The change order tonight, if it is approved, is added into this number that I've got, and then there was some additional work that we budgeted $17,000 to work on utilities, and some of those relocation items that were in the vaults along the buildings along Federal Avenue. The total of those comes up to about $145,000 or about $146,000, which, looking at the overall budget for the project, the $4.5 million, that's about 3.2% at this, with all of that added together. So if the project does expend the full $4.5 million, we'll be 3.2% over at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marsters. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Marsters?
Yes.
Tornquist?
Yes.
Weaver?
Yes.
Silver?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Number 10, Administrator recommending approval, resolution authorizing a contract agreement with Kelly Demolition LLC of Mount Vernon, Iowa for additional asbestos testing and abatement monitoring related to the city's flood buyout program. Mr. Weaver, do you have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, I did talk to also Trish Sandahl last week, and could you ever come to the microphone on
Ms. Sandahl.
information about the flood buyout for? It's a good time to probably get some information out, and we've had some requests. I know some of us have. I just got a couple questions. Is it okay? All right, Trish, when we talked the other day, you were pretty blunt with me when you told me to get to the point. Now, buyout number four a year ago, am I correct, a year ago we had about $900,000 or $1 million left in buyout number 4, a little over a year ago. And my question would be, if I'm reading your stuff that you give us right, and you know, we've had to hire a couple people to help out on all this, so it's not real, it's kind of hard to keep up with all the changes being made. So we have 3 properties left in buyout 4. This is the third. We'll have 2 after this one, or I understand buyout 4 included 65 properties, and there was 3 left to do. We had acquired 62, and the 3 would be 607, and of course 111 and 115 Madison.
607.
This one here is
607 North Hampshire.
Yeah, 607 North Hampshire. And then those 2 would be the 3 to complete.
No, 607 North Hampshire is the Burgo property.
Okay.
It just timing-wise, it worked to add them to our asbestos testing contract because our contractor had to come back and redo some work that he had done incorrectly.
So how many properties are left then in buyout 4? You just gave us that information a week ago or so, 10 days ago.
Yeah.
I thought it was 3.
I'm old. I would have to say, we have...
Not as old as me, Trish, but go ahead.
No. Off the top of my head, I believe that we have 15 properties left on buyout 4 to acquire. We are waiting for all but 2 of those property owners to purchase replacement houses. Okay, so they're looking for replacement housing, or they've already purchased replacement housing, they're just not ready for us to buy the buyout property. We have 2 properties we're waiting for environmental clearance to make offers to purchase on.
Those properties are, which ones were those?
Those are the 2 on South Madison.
And where are we at on that? You said last week you were expecting a phone call from DNR.
I got that today. Actually, it wasn't the DNR, it was from FEMA. FEMA did let us know, and unfortunately the property owner hasn't been told yet because I got this at the end of the day. They did request additional study for 115 South Madison. I've already contacted the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and they will be here a week after Labor Day to do a phase 2 site assessment for both of those properties. And we'll just have to see what happens.
What's the schedule?
It'll be the week after Labor Day.
Week
The week of Labor Day.
Week
excuse
of
me.
Labor Day.
I think it may actually be the day after Labor Day.
Because I remember back in the day, and I think it was '09, I think your comments were it would behoove the city to purchase these 2 properties because they are in the floodplain and the trouble that could lurk from within.
That's correct.
Well, I hope we stay the course on those 2 properties. Again, my question would be to you, how much funds do we have left in buyout number 4?
That I cannot give you off the top of my head. I know that we were requested to amend our contract with the state to return $900,000 to the state that we don't need due to the duplication of benefits calculation. When we buy a property, we have to take off the FEMA benefits that a property owner received. And because of that, we had about $900,000. We did calculate in a $400,000 buffer. I padded the numbers.
So we still have that buffer
Yeah, we have plenty of money to acquire properties.
to buy on Madison too?
Yes, yeah, cost is not an issue. The issue is the 2 properties on Madison, FEMA will not allow us to use their funds to acquire the property until they can be reasonably certain that they won't be open to claims because of environmental damage that might happen because of the potential contamination on that property. Because one property is a dry cleaner and the other property had been used as a transformer site by Iowa Power, they do have a higher likelihood of being contaminated. That's why they've requested
Right,
the
but in your own words, from the memos in the past, it would be a pretty good deal for the city to acquire these for the good. I hope we stay the course.
Their uses are not
So,
compatible.
did I hear you right then, both these, because I'll get back to both property owners, did both these properties make the phase 2 thing for Labor Day then?
Yes.
We're gonna come up.
Yes.
And what is phase 2?
Phase 2 is an environmental assessment that involves doing core samples, and they'll also put in monitoring wells and sample the water samples that accumulate in the well. Phase 1 is strictly site observations and then the review.
We've done that
of the
already,
property.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the report on that said the vegetation looked pretty good on the one property, didn't it?
It did, and there's no vegetation on the other property, so it's
Right.
okay. So.
Thank you
So
very
are-
much.
are we
Thank
looking-
you. Well, let's move on here, let someone else have a pop, and of course, we can always come back here on the next 3 minutes. Anybody else have any thoughts or discussion? All right, seeing none, Mr. Weaver, do you have another 3 minutes?
It's okay.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Thanks, Jerry.
All right. Seeing none, we've got a motion and a second. Clerk call the roll.
Weaver,
Yes.
Tornquist,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Marsters,
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Number 12, Administrator recommending approval, A, resolution directing sale of $1.4 million GO bonds, series 2011A. B, resolution directing sale of $2.96 million general obligation refunding bonds, series 2011. B, C, resolution authorizing the redemption of outstanding GO bonds, series 2003 for the city of Mason City, state of Iowa, dated October 1st, 2003, and directing notice be given. And we're going to have a public hearing here in just a second. But I want to introduce Director Kevin Jacobson, our finance director, talk about the sales.
Thank you, Mayor Council. Today at 11 o'clock, 11:30, we accepted bids on the 2 bond issues. I've got Larry Berger with Spear here. He will be going over the information on the bond issues. You should have copies of both those A and B issues. The A issue is for capital projects for the police department, airport projects, street projects, and we have a refunding of a bond issue that we currently have that's outstanding, and Mr. Berger will go over that and explain to you what we've had for savings on that with the refunding. And also we had 2 additional refundings combined into one for 2 separate bond issues, and he'll also go over that information. With that, I'll introduce Larry Berger from Spear, and he will go over the information with you.
Good evening. Thank you, Kevin. I also would like to introduce my associate that drove over here tonight because she did work on this a lot today because of the refunding Maggie from our office in Waterloo. And Maggie also happens to be my daughter, so it's one of those things. She does a very good job, and I'm lucky because I couldn't fire her anyway, so her mother wouldn't let me. I'll quickly run through this. You got 4 stapled packets. I'll go right down through all 4 of them in that order that we handed them out. First of all, you did take bids today on $1.4 million general obligation bonds, Series 2011A. If you go through that packet, you can see that we did have 5 bids today, and we will be recommending the low bid of Bankers Bank of Madison, Wisconsin, for an extremely low rate, and this is an 11-year bond, but a low rate of 1.7873. Behind that cover letter, and we'll come back to that shortly, is your Moody's report, and this is in the top packet. And I highlighted some areas in the Moody's report that you want to pay attention to. The first letter looks like this, and then behind it is the Moody's report that looks like this. I highlighted the city was reaffirmed at a AA2. That is an excellent rating. AAA being the highest, so you are working your way towards the AAA rating. I did highlight some areas that you want to pay attention to, as I always do with my city councils. The strengths, it talks about your strengths. It talks about, at the bottom of the first page, sound financial management and very strong reserves. Moody's, when they rate, they like cities to have very strong reserves, and the city does have that. If you turn the page, we talk again about the financial operations, and they expect it to be to maintain the sound financial operation. Also, if you'll look right in the middle of the page, amortization of the outstanding debt is rapid. They like that, and nearly 87% of the principal expected to be repaid within 10 years. So you've got a lot of things going. An A2 or AA2 is an excellent rating. And as we go forward year after year, we will keep working on even increasing that rating. But right now, that is a very nice rating where you're at. A lot of the sheets behind that are just the disclaimers that Moody's put. So what I'm looking at now is the bid and bidders list. It looks like this from the first packet. And as you can see, Bankers Bank did bid this with Community National Bank of Mason City. I think that was Storm Lake, or did they want Mason City, right? Okay, sorry. And you'll see the right-hand column that the total cost in interest is $101,329. But if you'll notice, UNB Bank came in with Clear Lake Bank and Trust, so we did have good representation from the area. They bid at $185, which is the second low, but just that small 6-7 basis points difference is about $3,700. So it's always good to take bids on bonds, and especially if you're a AA2. But notice the high bid, which again is not really a bad bid at 2.4, but it is about $40,000 more in total cost. So you always want to take bids. We had a very good showing on this bond sale today. I did include after that all of the actual bids that came in, and then the very last sheet on this handout is the final debt service schedule. And you'll notice, because we did do 2 refundings today, we did in this new money refund, or in this new money issue, we did actually keep a call in there. So after 2017, just as we took advantage today of the bond issue and refinancing, just like you refinance your house, we have a call in there 2017 that you can again refinance this bond if indeed the interest rates are lower. I'm not sure they will be, but we'll see when we get down to 2017. Mayor, if you would like me to go ahead with the second proposal.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and go through all.
Okay, thank you. The next bond that we sold, this is an advanced refunding, and the advanced refunding means that we're not to the call provision. So that sheet I just showed you, we're not there. We're going to be there next June. But the interest rates are so low, what we can do is we can take the new money and stick it into an escrow account and wait for the call. And then we're taking advantage of the low interest rates. That way we don't take the risk of the interest rates rising before June of next year. So this is two refundings, actually 02 and 04. Your outstanding bonds, and it equaled $2,960,000. And we did have to, we were required to take this bond separately. We did not change the structure. We're still at a 6-year bond. And I think today you've just broken my 18-year record of the lowest bid for a 6-year bond. Because as you can see, we'll be recommending UNB Bank of Kansas City at a revised rate of 1.1520. So we're refinancing the outstanding bonds with a bond that is 1.1520. I did just include in this handout, I didn't repeat the Moody's because the Moody's report covers both bond issues. I did give you all of the, how many bids did we have? 8 bids on the second sheet, and as you noticed, between the low and the second low, again, we've got about a $4,000 difference, and between the low and the high, we've got about a $25,000 difference. So again, bidding the bonds is very advantageous for the city. I included the bids again, and then the very last sheet is your new debt service schedule, and as you can see, this ends again in 18. That's the same time frame as the 2002 and 2004 bonds. Then if you turn to the very next one, and this is the savings sheet showing you the savings. Now in the original $1.4 million, we had about $420,000 in refunding. That was the current refunding. And so if you'll notice on this handout, and it says up at the top, it says General Obligation Bond Series 2003, the current refunding. I gave you the old debt service schedule. So as you can see on this, it goes from a 3.7 to 3.85 of 4%. And now if you turn the page, this is your new debt service schedule, which is 0.5 of 1%, 70 or 0.70, 0.90. And then if you turn one more page, this is your savings on this sheet, and this is the current one, the smaller issue. And you save down below, it says net present value benefit, $14,599.55. That's net to the city. That's after all the costs are taken out, because we calculate the cost right into the bond issue. So that's net to the city. Now the exciting news on the advance refunding, the very next handout, is I gave you the 2002 sheet, and that runs from a 3.6 to a 4.05. Everyone's with me? And then the second sheet is the 04 series that runs from a 340 to a 360. You turn the page, and now you're replacing those two interest rates with a 45, a 70, a 95, a 125, 155, and a 185. And then the very last sheet again shows you the net present value savings of $116,726.02. An excellent day, not only in issuing new money and in the market, but an excellent opportunity to take advantage and save a lot of money for the city. And so with that, I would turn back to both and recommend that we sell 2011 A's to Bankers Bank of Madison, Wisconsin for a true interest rate of 1.7873, and I would recommend that we sell 2011 B's to UNB Bank of Kansas City, Missouri for a revised interest rate of 1.1520. I would answer. That was real fast. I was trying to keep it. I didn't. My time wasn't clicking. Anyway, I would answer any questions that you would have.
Yeah, we'll do the public hearing, and then we'll bring it back up here to do that. But
Okay.
I would just say before, that those are spectacular rates, and I think the director and you guys, your team, did a great job. That's spectacular savings.
Thank you. Just as I can say, Kevin and his team were on the phone with Moody's and to maintain the rating, and just did an excellent job. We were over present, but he did all of the work on the phone with the Moody's.
Thank you very kindly. Thank you, Director, and your team. Now's the time for public hearing on this. If you have comments you'd like to make regarding this item, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. All right. Well, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and we'll just go one by one down here, get a first and a second. If anybody has any questions, we'll address them to Mr. Berger or Director Jacobson. Is there a motion and a second to adopt Resolution A?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you kindly. Is there any discussion on this, Mr. Tornquist?
No.
Ms. Solberg?
Just reiterate again, great job. Thank you very much.
Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, I'd like to see, Mr. Berger, is it?
Yes.
I want to tell you, that was the nicest job of explaining our bonding here that I've ever had. And I like the way you put your packet together, and I love the way you highlighted and also brought Moody's into it. If I recollect, that's, our rating is going up then. We were in trouble a little bit ago, a few years ago, with Moody. So I really appreciate you spelling them out as well as you did. It was a good job. And those are, like the mayor says, those are like 30-cent gas a gallon, you know what I mean, prices that we have. We should have bonded way more.
Thank you.
That's cheap money. Thank you, good job.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Anybody else down here? All right. Seeing none, we've got a motion and a second on Resolution A. Clerk call roll.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Is there a motion and a second to adopt Resolution B?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Tornquist?
No.
Solberg?
No.
Anybody else?
Mayor,
Mr. Marsters?
the resolution needs a correction. It's got the original interest rate and true interest cost instead of the revised. So I'd like to amend the motion to include the revised rates in it.
You got that? Thank
Need a
you.
second to amend that?
Do we have a second on the amendment?
Yeah, he's correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
second.
Okay. Okay. Is there we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Do we have any discussion on that? Nice catch, Mr. Marsters. All right. Got a motion and a second on the amendment. To use the revised. Clerk call the roll.
Marsters.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Is there a motion and a second to adopt Resolution C?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Tornquist?
No.
Nice catch, Mr. Trout. All right, so we adopted the amendment, but we do need to take a motion and a second on the resolution. You're absolutely.
Or vote on that. You've
Yeah,
already-
absolutely.
Motion
So
second.
we have the amendment now. So do we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution B now that it's been amended?
Well, we already have a motion. We already have a motion.
Already on the table, you just need to take
Okay,
a vote.
all right. Clerk call roll.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Very nice. Is there a motion and a second to adopt Resolution C?
We already have.
Yeah, they did it before.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Discussion. Just gotta have ourselves. All right. Clerk call roll.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Number 13, Administrator recommending approval ordinance amending the City Code Title 12 zoning by repealing Chapter 8 zoning, Districts General, Section 2 zoning form and function table, Article C office, and Chapter 14 Z6 Industrial District, Section 9 forms and functions table, Article C office, and Chapter 18 Section 8 Z6R restricted industry, and adopt new articles and section in lieu thereof. This will be on first, and this is related to allowing live-work building as conditional use in
So moved.
Z6R districts. So before we move to motion, this is a public hearing. If you have comments you'd like to make regarding this item, please come to the podium and state your name and address. All right, well, seeing now, we'll close the public hearing. Mr. Weaver, you want to make a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on this matter?
I like it. Good work.
All
My
right,
staff.
seeing none, clerk call roll.
Weaver.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Number 14, Administrator recommending approval ordinance amending the City Code Title 12 zoning by repealing Chapter 16 zoning standards, Section 12 refuse and recyclable material, Paragraph A, location and screening in its entirety, and new Paragraph A. This will be on first. This will be a public hearing, so before we move forward, anybody in the public who has a comment on this, please give your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. All right. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah, help me out. Did I miss it in here about the removal of a dumpster 3 months? Are we having that? Is that part of this reading? To where we're redefining before planning and zoning about how long you can have the dumpster on your property?
In 2 point, sorry, to interrupt.
Yeah.
In 2.d, the middle of the paragraph,
Yeah.
it says, however, in no case shall a container remain on premises for these purposes longer than 3 months with any 12-month period if located in a Z2 or Z3, agreed on.
So then the few issues that we have around the community where dumpsters have been for maybe a year or two, maybe up to 3 years, they just sat there in the front yards of properties around the community. What this means is that, so I'm clear when I talk to these people tomorrow, what it means is that after the 3rd reading, or we can waive the 3rd reading, because I think we all agree on what we're doing here. We can waive that 3rd reading. And then they have, their 3 months starts over again. They can have their dumpster for 3 months. Because we're not implementing, right? Am I correct?
Right. It would, once published, it would become law, and then we would start.
Right, we start the clock ticking then.
Right.
And they'll get an additional 3 months, even though the dumpsters have been there for 3 years, or 2 years, or 1 year in one circumstance. So that means that September, October, November, then they have to be removed. And am I correct in saying that they cannot have that dumpster back on that property for, is it 9 months? Or is it a year?
It's 9 months because it can only be there 3 months in a 12-month period.
Right.
So they can request, but they can request an extension if approved by the administrative officer for good cause. So if they're in a large project that will take longer
Than 3 years or 2 years or a
right.
year?
Yeah, so that they can, not that long, I don't think we're looking at that
That's,
long.
I mean, that would be up to them.
But it would be the discussion that would be had with the
Say,
administrative
look,
officer.
you've had it there, because that's where this is coming from, all that, which I agree with, Did I mention the lids? Do we have a lid provision in there?
For new, I
I
believe.
think we do, don't we?
It relates to the new.
Because that's been an issue too, with the lidless dumpsters. I think it says, I think you have to, if you have garbage in it, you have to have a lid on it. If it has building materials, it's no lid. Is that still in effect?
Let's see, where is it? Yes. C, all refuse handling containers located outside the building shall have a tight-fitting lid to prevent spilling and spreading of debris. Exceptions will be made if open no-lid containers are necessary for construction debris or for similar purposes where spreading of debris is not likely, or if the use is for a temporary period of time.
I think it's a good ordinance. It's going to address all those issues that we've had.
Yeah, and it was a lot of compromise by both staff and the individuals that were part of that committee that was formed after that initial meeting. So it has been modified, and I think in a good way.
Well, I just didn't want to jump the gun there. I'm going to be telling some of these people tomorrow that their dream is coming true, because I think this council is going to support this, and possibly waive the 3rd reading just to speed up the process.
That's fair. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr. Sanders.
In the memo, it talks about existing refuse containers will be grandfathered in. So does that mean if they're open without lids, they can remain that way?
It will allow that to occur, but obviously over time we'll be able to fix, I think, because we've talked to the providers and their intent is to provide facilities with lids and so forth, so to prevent that. So that's part of what we did was in order to ameliorate some of the concerns by people that have existing dumpsters was to look at that issue and with working with the providers to ask them to put lids on their product, and that way it'll over time solve that issue.
I just want to make sure everybody understands. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Trump,
Well, given where Councilman Weaver's hoping this goes in the next 2 weeks, I'd propose a friendly amendment to skip reading 1 and move to reading 2. that sets us up for reading number 3 in 2 weeks, and we don't have to worry about how it's advertised. We can't really, if we don't skip a reading tonight, it'd be very difficult to advertise in 2 weeks that we're skipping reading 2, because that's not a foregone
Setting up,
conclusion.
you're basically setting up.
And I've been real consistent over the years in being opposed to skipping a reading. If there may have been people in the community that thought they'd have one more crack at it.
Okay.
So we can clean all that up tonight.
We have a motion.
We don't normally do that, Scott, right?
We've got a motion here to make it a second. I think Mr. Weaver, you're going to second that?
I will second that.
Okay. We need a discussion on moving it to second. All right. Clerk, call the roll on the amendment.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Solberg. Yes. Marsters.
Yes. All right. Is there any further discussion on, now that we've got it on second? All right, well, we've got a motion and a second, an amendment on the ordinance to make it a second reading, so we'll call the roll.
Weaver.
Yes.
Solberg. Yes. Nelson.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Number 15, Administrator recommending approval of ordinance amending the city code title 12 zoning by repealing chapter 10 Z3 suburban district section 4 accessory buildings and chapter 11 Z3 general urban district section 4 accessory buildings in their entirety and adopting sections in lieu thereof on first. Is there we got a public hearing. Folks, if this is a public hearing, if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to take the mic and mention your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion and second on the ordinance?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Ms. Solberg?
In the packet here, it's showing where we're trying to move garages forward from what I'm gathering in all of this, and helping with snow removal. And I think it's a great thing that the city staff has put together here. I think the citizens will really enjoy this. Thank you.
And Ms. Solberg, Mr. Weaver?
I like it too.
Ms. Marshers?
Well, I would have the same question we did with the last one, whether we should speed the process up since we're in the peak of the construction period. Maybe we should put this to second reading, so I would make an amendment to put this to second reading.
Okay, there's a motion to make a second. Is there a
Second that.
Is there any discussion on the amendment? All right, seeing none, we've got a motion and a second on the amendment to move to second reading. Clerk, call roll.
Marsters.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Solberg. Yes. Nelson.
Yes.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the ordinance? All right, well, seeing none, we've got a motion and a second on the ordinance. We've got a passed amendment to move to second, so clerk, call roll.
Solberg. Yes. Weaver.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. Number 16, Administrator recommending approval of ordinance adopting new ward precinct maps based on 2010 census, certifying the Secretary of State and County Auditor. We have done first on this, so we are on second at this point in time. Is there a motion and a second that the ordinance be placed on file and for second reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nelson?
No comment.
Mr. Marshall?
Thank you.
Ms. Solberg?
Just quickly, I visited with Administrator Trout before the meeting, and Ward 4 is kind of all over the place, and I think we talked that maybe in 10 years to revamp or relook at that again. Because it's really difficult for somebody in Ward 4 to figure out where the boundary lines are, and what was it you said, we weren't quite in the...
Right, I'll comment real quick. What we had is, when we did the analysis according to the guidelines of the state, you're allowed a deviation between the wards of 1.10, and we had a deviation of 1.08, so that allowed us to maintain the existing status quo for boundary lines, which most people like, but that is a concern that we have. We have a number of individuals that with the lines being jagged, around different areas, it makes it difficult. I would expect that in 10 years, as the population kind of moves, building happens and so forth, that and when we look at the population, that we'll see move around the community, that more than likely our deviation will be too great in 10 years and we'll likely have to redraw boundaries in 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Silver. Ms. Weaver?
Are you making a prediction about our population in 10 years? What are you saying?
It's going to move around.
It's going to move around.
More people in Southwest.
All right. Anybody else? All right, well, we've got a motion and a second. We'll call vote.
Nelson.
Yes.
Marsters.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
All right, thank you, council. That concludes our order of business. We are adjourned. We'll have a public input listening post here in 5 minutes.